Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Today we're going to be talking Virtua Fighter. So if you're somehow unaware, not too long ago on the channel, we covered some various, leaks, too strong of a term because nothing actually leaked, but the existence of the next entry in the Virtua Fighter franchise is effectively confirmed. The source is impeccable, I have zero reason to doubt it, I suspected as much myself, so it's basically a done deal. It's just a matter of, we're waiting for the announcement. Also, just a quick addition to that video, another detail that was released after the fact of that video being made is RGG Studios, aka the Yakuza team, is also assisting in the development of the new Virtua Fighter game. So there's certainly some resources being put towards it. And that leads us to our video. Basically, what form will a Virtua Fighter 6, or, well, technically it's going to be a reboot, it looks like, but what form will a new Virtua Fighter take? A lot of this will be my opinion and my opinion only. This is as a lifelong Virtua Fighter fan. Technically, the last game, VF5, like vanilla VF5, was 17 years ago. So it's been a long time since the last proper entry in the series, and obviously time has moved on, standards have changed, and how should VF match the current modern standards? If at all, frankly. So this video is probably going to be a lot of me gushing about VF weirdness, so apologies for that, because that's kind of what this video has to be. And I guess first thing to talk about is what should Virtua Fighter be going into the modern day? And for that, I truly believe the just kind of bare formula of what makes VF should stay exactly as it is, because it works. Not that there shouldn't be changes, we'll definitely go into that, right? But it's very strong. In fact, it's to be emulated. It always drives me nuts. Nobody sees it for what it is, but every major change in Tekken 8 for the most part, every major change in Tekken 8 was to make it play more like Virtua Fighter. Better side steps? Thanks VF. Throws track now? Thanks VF. Heat system basically forcing you to fight against each other up close more and more than you used to? Thanks VF. These are all traits of Virtua Fighter. VF always has this perception of the elder statesman fighting game, right? And sure enough, in a lot of ways it is, but what VF is at its core is a super brutal, super vicious, and mean game. Every fighting game over every generation now seems to be more and more about aggressiveness, right? That's VF at its core. You can tell by the clock is a dead giveaway. Virtua Fighter starts with a 45-second round. 3D fighters like Tekken start with 60-second rounds, 2D fighters start with 99-second rounds. VF starts at 45 seconds because you're not expected to be there that long. The fight's going to be over one way or another right quick. Because the nature of what Virtua Fighter is, for the most part, is you get in each other's face and you stay stuck in. It's less like Tekken, where you're fighting for spacing with backdashes and all that, because in this game with a block button you can't block while backdashing, right? If you backdash, you're taking a much bigger risk, so you can't really separate the same way. And with evades being so much stronger than, say, Tekken, it's just as simple as doing an evade and taking your turn back and then going from there, right? So it's a very vicious, very mean game where you're just in each other's face non-stop. And that should remain exactly the way it is. Keep attack strong, keep throws strong, and keep sidesteps strong. Virtua Fighter plays its best as a bloody melee up front, and that should stay exactly the way it currently is. And yes, when it comes to the instant kill scenario of the ring outs shouldn't be going anywhere. Ring outs toughen you up. Ring outs build character. Nothing will make you fight for your life more, feel the thrill of battle more than one of the infamous taco stages, where you start the match where the walls are immediately on top of you. There's almost no room to breathe. On the other side, on the longer side, is a ring out. So death by wall immediately behind you, death by ring out on the side. No nonsense like in Soul Calibur where ring outs get weaker and weaker and weaker in every iteration of the game. Keep ring outs and crazy strong stages crazy and strong. So I want a lot of what the core of VF is to stay. The VF experience should remain the VF experience, because that's why you would normally play the game, right? But obviously things should change one way or another. So here's one thing, honestly, and it's going to ruffle some feathers, but one thing I would like to see go, and that's get rid of the weight system. So the weight system's a legacy mechanic, and it's one of those examples to me where not all depth in a fighting game is good depth. Sometimes depth is just busy work. All the weight system does is force you to memorize more things effectively, and also creates some wildly confusing situations that you just don't understand. For me, someone who teaches new players fighting games a lot, I remember when Ultimate Showdown came out, right? And then, you know, multiple people come to me like, I learned this combo, but this combo doesn't work on this person, doesn't work on this person. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it is. System's always been a poor replacement for a health system. And the lighter characters ideally take more damaging, longer combos, but it's not like the lighter characters are any better for it, really. Like, here's an example starter combo, right? This is the universal one, works on the heavyweights and everyone lighter. 59 damage. This one, same starter. This is middleweights and lower, so now we're getting a substantial damage boost, 67 damage. And this one works on the lightweights, and this is even more damage yet. This is 75 damage. So generally, they're asking you to learn 4 sets of combos. One's on the heavyweights and everyone below, the middleweights, everyone below them, the lightweights, and Taka, because Taka's his own thing. This is another video I'll put for you in the video description, because Taka has a completely unique rule set compared to everyone else in the game when it comes to weight and combos. Literally, moves that would launch people will not launch him. Your combos are going to be worse against him. For Taka, I don't mind so much. That's literally like unique to his character kit. That's what makes the character the character. But for the general stuff, right? So I showed you Vanessa, the one combo. So you'd have to know 3 sets of combos for that one starter if you want to be anywhere near optimal. And this is Vanessa. She has over 200 moves, okay? So there's a lot of combo starters in those 200 moves. So you have to know 3 sets of combos for all those combo starters, and that's a lot. And then we enter the weird stuff. Like this specific combo route for Wolf. So there's actually multiple weight classes, like micro weight classes in the existing weight classes. This combo works on Jackie. It will not work on Akira. Why? I don't know. It works on Sarah, who's much lighter than Akira. So it works on a heavier character, works on a lighter character, and yet it won't work on Leo, who is heavier than Sarah is, right? And there's lots of weird examples like this, and there's already so many hard combo things in this game. Like, on top of, obviously, the weight system, there's all sorts of weird hitbox, hurtbox, weird interactions, which plague every fighting game. And then there's the open and close stance stuff, where your positioning matters if your chest is facing in or out, and if the opponent's chest is facing in or out to the screen. It's not like Tekken, where they always have the one fixed stance. This can change, and your combo might drop, or your combo might only exist and only be possible, depending on how your 2 characters are facing. So once again, I believe there to be good depth and bad depth in fighting games, and I believe the weight system to be bad depth. I only got reinforced on this when last year, Guilty Gear Strive patched out the weight system out of the game. Guilty Gear was another game that usually had the legacy mechanic of weight, and they just got rid of it. And I can tell you, someone who covers Guilty Gear, I don't know anyone who is sad to see it go. So weight system, legacy mechanic, sure, but not one worth keeping in the modern day, in my opinion. For Taka Arashi, he's the sumo, he's heavy, he can have his unique thing, that's what makes him the character that he is, sure. But for everyone else, just normalize it. If you want, you know, weight system be the replacement for health, give people actual health values then. And it will certainly be much less confusing on newcomers if, you know, once they learn the one combo they learn. And for a lot of people, it's hard to learn one combo, right? Like, we're not all fighting game pros. We haven't all been at this for a million years, right? And they learn the combo, and then all of a sudden the combo they learn doesn't work on this character, doesn't work on that character. Then they learn a second combo, and then it doesn't work on another character. Like, you know, it's frustrating for people. It's hard enough for a lot of people to learn just the one combo, and then learn, hey, it's subject to change against who you're fighting. So if there's one thing I would like to see go, that's a legacy mechanic in Virtua Fighter, is I would like to see the weight system go the way of the dodo. Now, that's one thing I think should go. One thing that should be enshrined in Virtua Fighter, the new game, whatever it may be, is the way throw techs are done specifically. Throws are very, very strong in Virtua Fighter, comparatively to Tekken, much stronger than they are in Tekken. The throw is your fastest attack, right? So a lot of what the game is built on the threat of the throw. And how throws work, regardless of how many throws characters have, and some characters have a lot of throws, but a throw can only ever be one of 3 things. A neutral throw, a forward throw, or a back throw. You might have 3 different kinds of back throws, you might have 5 kinds of forward throws, but it's always going to be forward, back, and neutral in the end. And that's what determines the breaks. And with Tekken 8 being a newer game, this kind of really highlights this point to me. people are complaining a lot about King in Tekken 8 right now, right? Because the throws and myriad of other things as well. And the way you break throws in Virtua Fighter is it can be a reaction check like Tekken, right? Simply hit forward, back, or neutral, don't hit a direction, and throw, and tech the appropriate direction of throw the other way. Although if you want to do it that way as like a reaction check, I believe the window is even smaller than it is in Tekken. But thankfully, in VF, if you know the throw that's coming, you can break it before it ever happens. So Virtua Fighter has what we call the lazy throw escape. Introduced, I think, in version C of Virtua Fighter 5. It wasn't technically there at launch. If I'm wrong on the version, please correct me in the comments. But still, the idea is this. When you're blocking, just hold punch in any direction, back, neutral, or forward, and you'll automatically tech any throw from that direction. So here, Vanessa is just holding block and punch. So auto-teching all neutral throws. So when Wolf goes for the neutral throw, it automatically gets teched. You can't catch her. Not going to happen. Someone like Wolf, especially deadly because he has the giant swing. He's the innovator of the move in 3D Fighters, by the way. So with the giant swing, if you're anywhere near a ring out, even on low wall stages, you're dead. Game over instantly. That's a forward break. So if you're anywhere near a ring out, you're probably going to want to hold block, punch forward, and auto-tech any forward throw from Wolf. Otherwise, you're going to instantly die. But that's it. It's not a reaction check. It's a knowledge/player check. If I'm in a position, either be it near a wall, near a ring out or whatever, and I know you have a particular throw that's exceptional in those situations, that's probably what I'm going to hold a direction to break in. Throws are fast in this game. They're 10 frames, and there's no tell like Tekken where you can see the arm. All throws, with very rare exception, look the same. So you can't tell that way, right? So the lazy throw escape just says, okay, I know the situation I'm in. I'm betting on the odds this is the throw you're going to go for, and I'm already breaking it before you even try it. And I think that's a super elegant way to deal with throws. You don't get the bad feels of losing the reaction check, like you're just a frame too late or something like that. If you got thrown, simply you let it happen. End of story. You guessed wrong. You had the wrong read on this situation. That's it. The game let you break the throw well ahead of time, and you let it through regardless. The only thing I'd potentially add to the mechanic, or not even add, but just simplify it, because I think it's a really elegant mechanic, is maybe reduce the need to even hold punch, right? Just simply, if you're guarding, you auto tech neutral, and then forward guard or back guard is a forward or back throw. I don't know, but the mechanic I think should be enshrined into the game. The old days of Virtua Fighter and like mashing for your life for like multi-throw escape techs, I don't want that to return. Lazy throw escape is simple and elegant and should stay going into the future. Okay, so one thing that should go, one thing that should stay, but now one thing to add. The one complaint I've always heard about Virtua Fighter throughout like the life of the franchise, compared to other 3D fighters especially, is where's the flash? Where's the cool stuff? If you watch a match of Tekken, things are exploding, there's hit sparks everywhere, there's dynamic cameras everywhere, and if you watch VF, not so much. And, you know, some people like that. They're like, this is the quote-unquote more realistic game, but hey, this game is not realistic. You know, like, a 90-pound woman can sometimes juggle a 350-pound man, right? Like, it's not realistic. It's maybe not like Ling Xiaoyu juggling Jack, who's like 2 tons, but still, it's not realistic, right? And things like Ultimate Showdown, the Yakuza team's remake of Final Showdown, right? They added some small things like hit sparks. They're very faint, but they are there. But yeah, things should change up a bit. Like, say, for comparison's sake against Tekken 8. So these are some counter hit combo starters for Azucena, right? And you know something's going down. Like, the screen zooms in, there's a big hit effect. Like, you know something real just happened. You can just be a spectator. You don't even have to be playing, right? You know something big happened. Compared to Virtua Fighter, these are counter hit combo starters. And the visual flair simply isn't there in the same way, to say the least. No zoom in, no big explosion, nothing like that. And that's certainly something that can change, that can be made better. You don't ruin the essence of Virtua Fighter by making a moment like that more flashy. And it's good on multiple levels. It's good for the player because it lets you know the counter hit is there. Certainly a lot better than like a little notification in the corner, right? The screen zoom in, flash and all that lets you know as the player, okay, here's like a primal instinct. I know now this happened, let's go. And as a viewer, a spectator, hey, it just looks cooler. Like, I'll be the first to admit, Tekken blows Virtua Fighter out of the water when it comes to like the presentational stuff like that. And that's all it is presentation. You don't got to change the gameplay, you don't got to change anything. You just change the visual information feeding in. On that front, whatever the new Virtua Fighter may be, definitely has a lot to be learned from Tekken 8, because Tekken does it very good. Because that's the issue, it's the presentation, it's not the animations. The animations are like world class, especially in like a lot of the what we would call two-player animations where both characters are interacting with each other. Like, these are some of the best animations ever put to any 3D fighter. Like, I'll call it for what it is on that. So when it comes like lack of flash, lack of presentation, this isn't what people are talking about. This stuff's pretty dang cool and pretty meaty on a lot of the hits, and some of them are especially pretty vicious. So this works, but when it comes to like just basic, you know, kick, punch, strike, playing neutral, all that kind of stuff, that's what could use a bit more visual flair in the very least. Not saying everything's gotta explode every 2 seconds like it does in Tekken, but it certainly is an aspect that Virtua Fighter could stand to improve in. Also, in a bit of a direct follow-up from this, since RGG Studio is working on the game, and it's almost certainly on the Like a Dragon engine, because they ported Ultimate Showdown and all the various animations and all that into the Like a Dragon engine to make Ultimate Showdown, and also to put so many various Virtua Fighter animations into the Yakuza games, especially the most recent one, Infinite Wealth, has tons of VF stuff in it. In that regard, pull a Tekken! Reuse a lot of these animations. They're really well done, they're really well mocapped. The person who did the mocap work for the game, in case you don't know who it is, a pretty famous lady of this day and age, right? She knew what she was doing. And even though some of these animations are indeed 17 years old, they're still, for the most part, mostly best in class in 3D fighting. So for the returning characters, do not be afraid to reuse some of the animations. Obviously the new characters are getting all new stuff, and obviously the returning cast should get new stuff as well, but don't be afraid to let some of the existing animations, do the heavy lifting. Every other 3D fighting game does it, so don't be ashamed to do it. The existing animations are all pretty good. Plus, that way we get more characters, right? If you recreate everyone from scratch, including all mocap, well, things get more expensive and harder. And with that, actually, let's shift to roster talk. So let's talk the roster, right? So obviously there's going to be new characters, of course. The quote-unquote leak, as it were, already discussed as much. But for the original cast, does every character come back? So as a final showdown, we're up to 19 characters. That's not nothing. And obviously some characters, no matter what, they're always going to be in, like Akira and Pai. And pretty much most of the VF1 original core cast kind of has to stay. But someone like Brad, right? Brad is not as popular as someone like Go. So will they expend the time and energy to put in the lesser popular, more quote-unquote, even it's like 17 years ago, right? The more quote-unquote modern characters? If they want to reuse a lot of the classic move animations, then this idea gets a lot easier. Then you can probably do the original 19 characters and then add 3 to 5 new characters along the way as well. And then you have a roster of, say, 24. And while not gigantic, that's pretty reasonable. The one character that sticks out like a sore thumb, as it did back in the VF4 days, which was the reason why he was not in Virtua Fighter 4, is our boy Taka. Once again, check the video description for a video dedicated to Taka and how messed up he is. But basically, of every character in this game, as it stands, not counting the new characters, they all roughly play by the same rule set, but Taka does not. Like, literally, moves do not have the same effect on him. He does not get launched the same way as other characters. He just doesn't play the same game everyone else does. And for that reason, they excluded him from Virtua Fighter 4. He originally made his debut in Virtua Fighter 3. And frankly, I remember when Ultimate Showdown came out and like Virtua Fighter 5 had a whole new set of eyes and everything, right? Taka was the nightmare character, because to a new player, nothing is more insane and frustrating than Taka, because he's a completely different character and you're playing a completely different game against him. And even though I like the guy, if any one character is going to get the boot out of the original cast, it's probably him. But that said, I actually think, once again, as long as you're willing to reuse a lot of the classic animations, I think it's very reasonable that all 19 characters can make it in, as long as you don't want to go too crazy on like a gigantic number of all new characters. Of all the various like subsections of this video, this one I'd really like your guys' opinion in the comments. Do you think everyone from the original cast should return, or should we only be focusing on the quote-unquote more core members of the cast, aka the famous ones people actually remember? Like your Akiras, your Pais, and your Jackies. So let me know on that. Now that said, let's talk New characters. Obviously, new fighting game, you have to have new characters. That's the way the model works. And in the original rumor/leak video, they very much said that, okay, yeah, they're obviously working on new characters. They have specifically a new character designer, new artist, and everyone's going to have, fresh, cool, new modern designs. And that's great. The one thing about, say, Virtua Fighter compared to Tekken, though, is everyone uses more real-world martial arts. Less so like Devil Gene and lasers and all that kind of stuff, right? So new characters would infer new martial arts. And what do we look for on that front? Obviously enough, VF has a very wide gamut, Like Jackie's our resident Bruce Lee Jeet Kune Do character. We have multiple wrestlers. Jean's our karate character. Brad's kickboxing. Jeffrey's the brute. Go's judo. And we got like a million different kinds of kung fu in the game. When we're looking for inspiration for new characters, we got to look at like what hasn't Virtua Fighter done already? And keeping in mind, we're probably not getting anything fantastical, and certainly nothing like weapon-based. There is still a few, I would say, glaring omissions from the Virtua Fighter roster as far as martial arts go, and not the least of which is just boxing. Like, every fighting game has its boxer, except for Virtua Fighter. Like, we have Brad, sure, but he's like kickboxing, Muay Thai. That's not the same thing. And obviously, most fighting games have like boxing done in a very stylish way as well. Like Steve from Tekken is a fantastic example of exactly that. Now, Virtua Fighter is a 3-button game, guard, punch, kick. But you can do what so many games do with the boxers anyway, and just turn kick into more punches. Like, a kick doesn't have to be kick. Like, I already see that argument coming, but it's an easy argument to defeat, honestly. Since VF already has such wide coverage of real-world martial arts, boxing is the most glaring omission, I would definitely say. Now, besides that, there's also things like, say, Taekwondo. There is no resident Taekwondo user in VF, right? So it's another thing, we have Horong in Tekken, and obviously more fantastical ones like Jury and Street Fighter. I don't think a Virtua Fighter Taekwondo user would be shooting fireballs from their legs. Although, if you want to aim for that foot fetish market, VF can take a swing at it, I guess. Don't let Jury have a stranglehold on the fans on that, I guess. Another big missing one would be Capoeira, although for 3D fighting specifically, it almost seems like blasphemous. Like, Eddie Gordo is the Capoeira guy. We don't really need another one. Because I don't think you can ever match Eddie Gordo. He is the essence of Capoeira in fighting games. Besides that, you kind of have to aim for like lesser known stuff. Not that it's necessarily like way lesser known, but like say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like we have Go. Go is a judo user. We have that. Vanessa is your quote-unquote more MMA flavored character. So that ground is covered, but specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not in the game. Although a game with such heavy strike focus, I guess it'd be a little different to see what they'd go for, but hey, could try it. But besides some of the more obvious ones, it's actually kind of hard. Like VF actually has very strong coverage of all sorts of various real-world martial arts. Obviously, if you want to go into the fantastical stuff, or like just make stuff up, like say Paul's technically judo and Tekken, but like what kind of judo is Death Fist? So yeah, besides like just making stuff up, there's not too many things to go for unless you want to go like say the real world version of say some of the fantastical things like say Street Fighter did, like Hakan's oil wrestling. It's a very real thing, Turkish oil wrestling. But obviously Hakan's a very exaggerated cartoonish version of it. I guess you could try something like that. I don't know if that would sell very good in a more realistic sense than Virtua Fighter though. That's another thing. If you have an idea you want to post in the comments below, like some real-world martial arts, because Virtua Fighter leans on the real-world martial arts compared to the more fantastical things you see in fighting games. Like, what would you think would be able to show up that VF does not already do? Because we got new characters, and we got to give them some sort of fighting style. And, the few ones that are not left marked off the list are almost certainly the ones they're going to be getting. And also, just for new characters, whatever they may be, it'd be fun to see them represent nationalities that are not normally done. So no more Americans, Chinese, or Japanese. Virtua Fighter as a franchise in the very first game was actually very good about that. We have Jeffrey, who's an Australian, Aboriginal as well, representative. And Wolf is a Canadian native representative, right? And let me tell you, not many Australians and Canadians in fighting games, let alone, in the first game in the series. That's what got me into VF in the begin with. As I saw Wolf and he has a Canadian flag right beside him, I'm like, wow, a Canadian. I'm Canadian. I guess I better play the game. So if any of these characters could rep, some of the lesser or never yet represented nationalities, that would be really cool as well. Okay, so let's get to the part where we all knew this was going to happen, right? We gotta talk Yakuza. Why? Because half the reason people even know what Virtua Fighter is in this day and age is because Yakuza as a franchise was carrying it on its back. You could go into whatever Yakuza game, and rest assured you'd find that Club Sega, and you would find some Virtua Fighter playable there. In fact, for consoles, before the launch of Ultimate Showdown, the easiest way if you want to play Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown in tournament was to find your copy of Yakuza 7 or Yakuza 6, and then play Virtua Fighter 5 there from the main menu. Yes, many people only know Virtua Fighter as the quote-unquote mini-game that's in the Yakuza franchise, but man, it's better knowing it that way than not knowing it at all. And therefore, the two franchises are kind of linked at the hip, I suppose. Ultimate Showdown as well, when it did come out, also had a whole suite. Every character in the game got a Yakuza costume, some of which have been already showcased in this video. So why are we bringing this up? Because whatever the new Virtua Fighter may be, just a clean reboot or call it Virtua Fighter 6 or whatever, the new Virtua Fighter needs, capital N-E-E-D-S, needs a Yakuza guest character or two. It has to happen. If this doesn't happen, it's the most insane failure in modern fighting games. This is the easiest possible layup they could ever get. Why? Because Yakuza as a franchise now, like a dragon as well, it's super popular these days. What isn't super popular, although we'll try to get that way, get the popularity back, is Virtua Fighter. And if you put in Yakuza guest characters, you now have a pre-built audience of several million people. Let me tell you something, guest characters work. I've seen it time and again. And if you could have, say, Kiryu or Majima or Ichiban playable in a new Virtua Fighter game, then you'll bring in a whole new audience of players that are going to play specifically for the guest character. And to head this one off with the pass, but rooflemonger, Kiryu can't hit women, blah, 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 blah. One, wrong, idiot, okay? The guy who said that, he's long gone. He cashed out to make like Chinese phone games. Two, if you actually have played the game, you would know that Kiryu has hit women before. Obviously, it's not a common occurrence or anything, but hey, it happens. And three, if he's a guest character, this isn't a canonical entry in the series or whatever, so it doesn't really matter. If you're looking for a guest character that'll sell you more copies of the game, Kiryu is it. Obviously, Ichiban and Majima are good too. Maybe they could be DLC or something in year 1 or year 2 or something, right? But Kiryu is it. Kiryu is an avid Virtua Fighter fan, for one. You may have noticed over the years he keeps playing Virtua Fighter at the Club Sega, right? So there's a canonical link there. And he would just fit well. All the various martial arts styles he's had over the years, especially, like Beast Mode, Legend Mode, Rush Mode, all that kind of stuff, they would all fit in the game beautifully. Like his play style is kind of already there. Look, there's his wall combo. Translating Kiryu or Majima, Ichiban a little harder because he's got more fantastical elements to him. But translating these characters over to a proper fighting game is the easiest thing in the world. They've already proven they got the moves for it. Kiryu alone has such an expansive moveset over the games, you can make him multiple characters, like Jackie Chan Fist of Fire has like multiple Jackie Chans, you could have multiple Kiryus. It's the easiest layup in the world. Whatever you want to do, there has to be some sort of Yakuza integration. Yakuza is what kept Virtua Fighter on life support basically pretty much everywhere outside of Japan, right? So many people that are younger especially only know the franchise exists because of Yakuza. So leverage the brand. There's a very strong link there. You'll get so many people to play a new Virtua Fighter that never played otherwise and create, all new fans with a pre-existing link because they understand it because they play those games. Doing a Yakuza tie-in some way, somehow with a character is just so obvious it has to be done. Anything less than that is a total failure. Like, do skins and costumes, sure, whatever, but an actual proper character needs to be done. A guest character representing the Yakuza series in a new Virtua Fighter. Nothing more to be said, really, other than the next Yakuza game should be a mini-game in the new Virtua Fighter. Guest character from Yakuza is literally the most obvious thing ever, has to be done. Now, on that note, let's talk about just Sega in general. They need to lean into the Sega aspect of the game. Sega's been resurgent in recent years, and, you know, with the quote-unquote super game project and everything, lean into the Sega stuff. Obviously, Virtua Fighter is its own game, right? But since we have so many customs, so many costume options, all that kind of stuff, go nuts with it. Like, how about Streets of Rage? Customization and costume options for all the characters. Jackie can dress up like Axel. Sarah can dress up like Blaze. Something like that. Or heck, if you want to go really extreme, they could even be guest characters themselves. They are martial artists, right? A little more fantastical, I guess. But it could be done. But, like, this is a brand waiting to be used. Streets of Rage 4 sold something like over 1 million copies. It's not some obscure retro brand. But even then, dig into the obscure retro brands. Do whatever you can to appeal to a broader audience. Like, put in Sonic the Hedgehog clothes. Be able to dress up the characters as various Sonic characters. Why not? You own the IP, you own the franchises, just lean into it. Make it work. It's not like Virtua Fighter, some may think it's so sacrosanct you can't do it, but like, Virtua Fighter brought silly stuff to 3D fighters. Like this kind of stupid nonsense you're looking at right here, like Virtua Fighter is the one that brought that to 3D fighters. The people who want to dress up the character in a serious way, hey, go for it. But you have such a depth of like IP and just everything you can work with. So the people who want to get silly, let them get silly. If I want to dress up Jeffrey as Big the Cat, I should be able to. Maybe Akira Yuki will be a more fun character and more accessible by the common man if he's wearing a Sonic hat and everyone can relate to it. Even the stages, like keep the stage the same basic idea, you know, either a ring out stage, low wall, high wall, or whatever. The backgrounds, like what if one stage was set in the Green Hill Zone? Wouldn't change the mechanic of the stage in any way, shape, or form, but you'd get eyes on the game maybe you wouldn't otherwise. Basically what I'm saying is just leverage the strength of your franchises. It doesn't have to affect like the core gameplay in any way, shape, or form, but since Sega's on the precipice of this whole Sega Renaissance era anyways, like leverage it. Like put in some like Jet Set Radio costumes or something like that. Let people equip little super monkey ball charms on the characters. Like this is stuff you already do, but just put the brands you own into the game. Way I look at it, if you just want to lean into Virtua Fighter as like a Sega culture kind of thing, it's all upside, no downside. Once again, I know, yes, VF has like the elder statesman fighting game appearance to it, at least, you know, the conception, that's what it is, but it's a silly ass game. Like, Leon's fighting with a mantis head because he uses mantis kung fu. VF has never been as deadly serious as some people think it is, so just lean into the weird aspect, it'll definitely work out. Now, directly from that, so a lot of the rumors / leak were saying, hey, you know, we're chasing sort of more modern fighters like Street Fighter and Tekken stuff, and presentation is a part of it, and people expect supers at this point, right? You know, VF has never had supers, has never had meter or anything like that, but once again, the last game was also 17 years ago. So is it time for something like that? And that, I don't know. I think you could give a flashy move with a cinematic presentation, something that is akin to a super move, but like building a meter or having like how Tekken does it, like a low health rage art, I don't know, because a lot of what the essence of what that is a comeback mechanic, and Virtua Fighter doesn't need a comeback mechanic. The game's too fast for a comeback mechanic. Once again, 45-second rounds, right? That's the idea going in. Things are going to wrap up real quick. And if you don't know, if you've been watching like this, you know, B-roll footage in the background while I've been talking this whole time, you probably got a good idea at this point. A comeback mechanic is fine for a slower game, but VF is a very fast game. It just doesn't need something like that. Now that said, perhaps just for, you know, the benefit of modernization appealing to a more casual audience, you can find a way to sneak in a more cinematic style of move. There's multiple ways we could go about it. Say it's the round you're about to lose the game, right? You're down 2 rounds straight. Maybe at that point, and for that round only, you unlock like a desperation move. Not quite a super or anything, but something nice and big and cinematic. Or maybe, to borrow a mechanic from Tekken, like Leroy with the cane, right? It's once per match, that's it, you're done. So if people had like a bigger, more cinematic style move, they could do once in the match and that's it. Like whatever round you use it in, that's it for the rest of the match, no matter what round it is after the fact. A one-off super, if you will. Maybe something like that could work, and it wouldn't disrupt the game too much. Or if you want to add to the cinematic presentation, we talked earlier about like flash, right? Instead of, say, on a counter hit, it's like a big spark and a flash Like for Tekken, maybe you go like the Mortal Kombat route, right? Like we get a crushing blow in, obviously not with like all the blood and guts and stuff, but say certain moves, if they're counter hit, it slows down for a second. You get to really appreciate, you know, the kick connecting to the head. There's a zoom in, a unique angle. Maybe something like that could work. But build meter, like do a rage R, do an EX move, do a super or an ultra. That's not exactly VF. I guess in a lot of ways this is directly tied to like finding like a more cinematic presentation, but super moves isn't it in and of itself. There's certainly something to be done like an astral finish or something like that, where like certain moves that are keyed that if the enemy is at like a low critical health point, they just automatically finish around. Like they'd be higher damage moves, maybe a throw or something like that. And if it wins or if it kills, it has an extra cinematic presentation, or, you know, just like a very dramatic camera angle specifically on the win. But frankly, this is another one where like I would like to know your guys' opinion on it, because like I know some people would just be totally down for it, right? But I just feel like given the relative speed of the game, it's just not the right fit for super moves as it normally is considered in fighting games. Like a super is a reward, you know, for like the slow build-up leading into the super. And when a lot of matches are under in like 25 seconds and we're done, like it just doesn't have that same feel to it. Especially once again, because characters are normally more grounded, right? Akira is not going to shoot the Baji Quan laser beam at you. Wolf's not going to bust out the Tomahawk missile. I think there's value in doing something like super light, like just a big one-off flashy presentation move, but as an actual mechanic that you build up to, I don't think we should do it the same way other fighting games do, but hey, that's just me. So to sort of close out, and I am going to ramble a little bit, I'm very much apologetic for that, I'm sorry, but you know, this is something I really care about. I love VF, right? I want to see whatever the new VF is, whatever incarnation it may be, I want it to be the most successful game it can possibly be. I want it to hit the most amount of people it can possibly hit, and that's why I'm so hung up on stuff like the guest characters, Yakuza representation, just putting more Sega stuff into the game. Hit the widest audience you can hit. I want to modernize the game. Stuff like the presentation, I think, should be a bit better than it is. I don't think it's bad or anything, but when you can just compare it to Tekken and like all the flash and gewgaws of Tekken to VF, yeah, VF is a little bit more plain. There is ground you can absolutely make up. Maybe that is better hit sparks. Maybe that is better, you know, various camera angles and stuff you can do, various camera tricks on various moves. The animations themselves, like, I think the animations of VF's always been way better than the animation in Tekken, right? So I don't think that's the issue. The animations, they can stay, right? But basically, there's a lot of modernization to be done, but I don't want VF to give up its soul to do so. I don't want it to become a game that it isn't. VF is a combination of, like, hyper aggression, yet super crisp and super responsive gameplay. It is very much its own thing. Like, you can't get the exact same thing out of Tekken or DOA. In a game like VF, there is always something you can do. There is never a moment where you can't do something, even if it's just purely defensive or whatever. There's always something you can do. And given the speed of the game, it just makes the amount of like decisions per second in Virtua Fighter pretty much higher than any other fighting game. There's no passiveness. There's no waiting back and just kind of seeing what happens, right? Even stuff like throws, right? We mentioned like the throw break stuff earlier in the video. If you're unaware how throws work in this game, if you attack, you can't be thrown, with rare exception. There's a couple counterpoints to that, right? So if you just want to be aggressive, like throwing beats defensiveness, but aggression beats throws, right? And that's a good little triangle. Do a move, oh, he's plus here, I better block, but if I block, I know he's going to throw, so screw it, I'm going to keep attacking even when I'm negative. That's a barre, right? And the concept of, you know, attacking at a disadvantage all comes from Virtua Fighter, like not just, you know, you mashing a Street Fighter at home, right? Like it's a serious strategy in this game, attacking when you shouldn't. It's a major part of the gameplay. And obviously evasiveness, stepping, all that kind of stuff is so much better than it is in Tekken, so much better than it is in Dead or Alive. Like you can always sidestep with rare exception or against like moves that have like full circle tracking or, you know, semi-circle tracking, right? But you can always try to steal your turn back with a dodge. Like you're always doing something, something's always happening. The pace of the game is breakneck, and that needs to be exactly that. That does not need to change at all. It needs to be that, and it shouldn't change in any way, shape, or form. Like, just like Tekken, yeah, there's all sorts of knowledge checks and all that kind of stuff, right? But the core base mechanics are so strong that you can just have a rough idea of what you need to do, and then you don't need to know every number as hard. You don't need to know every giga and gimmick as life or death as, say, Tekken. You still do, like, if you want to get good and go tournaments and all that, sure. But, you know, the core mechanics are so strong in and of themselves. That's also why, once again, as a fighting game educator, I guess, right? I firmly and truly and honestly believe Virtua Fighter as a franchise, at a beginner to intermediate level, is the single easiest fighting game to get into, period. The game only has 3 buttons. Already in and of itself, that's easy to explain. Punch, kick, block. Easy, easy, easy. The core mechanics, once again, are so easy and understandable. They're super intuitive. It's very easy to sell, very easy to teach. Yeah, is the hard stuff hard? Sure, yes. Like once we start getting into, like, you know, fuzzying throws and all that, because fuzzying means something very different in Virtua Fighter compared to, like, your maybe 2D knowledge of the term. Basically, it's crouch ducking while you're negative to avoid a throw, which is a high, but be able to stand up and block a mid, right? So it's a whole thing. So yeah, the hard stuff's hard. The advanced stuff is still very advanced, right? And there's so many weird little particulars about that. But the base level stuff is the easiest it is in any fighting game, in my opinion. It just really is one of the most elegant franchises in that way. Everything just makes sense. It's going to be truly rare, once you just know the basics of the game, that you'll find yourself in a situation you just don't understand. It's all just kind of plainly written and in your face that way. So, in all this gushing, basically what I'm saying is, yo, gameplay good, right? That's the thing that needs to change the least out of everything once we modernize the franchise. But all the other stuff, the guest characters, you know, customization is a very big deal. Whatever they're going to be doing with single player, if they want to, like, actually deal with the plot. Plot has always been the weakest part of the franchise. It's barely a thing. Like, other than the fact I always joke about the Satan Shark, because that's like the only notable thing about the franchise. That, I don't know. That's the stuff that needs the R&D the most. They keep saying it's a reboot, and once again, please check in the video description about all the original /rumor/leak, all that kind of stuff. They keep saying it's a reboot, and they're going to be focusing on single player stuff, so I'm really interested in seeing where that's going to go. You can kind of blank canvas it, honestly. The Judgment 6 storyline as it is hardly sacrosanct, right? So you can just kind of erase it and just start over, and I certainly wouldn't complain. Who knows when they're announcing this? Once again here, RGG Studio is helping. They're not necessarily the main developer on it, but they're helping, I guess, like the AM2 team or the remnants of the AM2 team to make the new Virtua Fighter game. Using the Like a Dragon engine is very likely. Rumor/leak said it was happening in 2021 is when they started. So basically, Ultimate Showdown, the game you're looking at right now, which is the remaster, I guess, of Final Showdown. That was basically just the test case, you know, the tech demo, if you will, to see if we could do this, see if this worked. So when will it be announced? If it's already been in development for, say, you know, 3 years or so, it could be later this year, it could be next year, but who knows? But it's coming. That's all I really know, and that's why I made this video. That's why I'm so excited. I've waited a long time for a new game, a very, very long time. It's one of my favorite franchises, always has been. And to that point, it's a game that so many, especially, you know, the younger FGC, right? You start to say in Guilty Gear Strive, or maybe start with Street Fighter 6 or something. Like, trust me when I say, man, this is a game you will like. I don't know anyone who's actually put real time into Virtua Fighter and doesn't love the franchise. It's just such a damn good game. And really all I can say is I look forward to the new one. So long video, lots of rambling. I'm sorry for that. But, you know, hey, I care. That's why I'm doing this, because I care. This means a lot to me. So I just want to see where this all goes. So that said, all the stuff I said in the video, if you got any opinions on it, any thoughts on it, please post in the comments below. And other than that, I guess we're finally at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. And go out and play some Virtua Fighter.